Welcome back to Newsmakers. My guest today, Karen C.W. Drakeford. She is author of Creating Your Healthy Legacy. Welcome, by the way.
Thank you so much for having me here.
No problem. By the way, she's also CEO of Mutzmer Ltd. And a licensed clinical social worker.
Yes.
You have a very nice, wonderful resume, long goes on. But let me ask you a little bit about this book. I have a feeling it was inspired by your social work, but you tell me.
Actually, it has been. I've been working in the New York City school system.
Yes.
In Bronx, New York, as well as having my own holistic private practice.
Yes.
For over 20 years. During that time and working with children and their families and just people in general, I began to notice that there were patterns that they followed in terms of dysfunctions. You know, all of them had abusive males in their family, or no one ever seemed to get through school, or people were very into substance abuse or alcohol abuse or what have you. And over time, from a lot of other trainings I had, I began to notice that as you began to trace the histories further and further back generations, that there were patterns that developed. And as I began to share those patterns with the people, they would have aha moments like, that's where that came from. So just like we hand family heirlooms down and family recipes down, we also hand down issues.
So what does this mean specifically, creating your healthy legacy?
Creating your healthy legacy stems from the fact that we have a legacy of dysfunction that comes before us. And in beginning to explore that and understanding it, we can transform it into something healthy. So instead of passing a dysfunctional legacy for the future generations, you can now hand down a healthier version of that.
What's your big goal with this book?
My biggest goal is to really help to empower people in the community, and also to reclaim our next generations. You know how we always talk about the lost generations, and we don't know what's going on with the youth these days, and they have no sense? Well, I always tell people, if they're lost, who lost them? We did. So as we begin to shift our way of being and model that for children, because they see what you do, they don't listen to what you say. It then helps to model for them a healthier way of being. And for that, our future is based on our children. So as we do that, we're also beginning to put forward a much healthier future, a much more viable future. And right now, in this day and age where everybody's feeling very depressed, you know, jobs are not around, you know, our kids are being incarcerated all over the place, to be able to shift that to a healthier mindset and a sense of hope, a sense of promise, a sense of positive goals and what have you, then we can have a powerful next generation instead of one that, you know, is just kind of withering on the vine, so to speak.
So what inspired you, I guess, to be on the path that you're on, but specifically to write this book?
From seeing how so many of the children I work with were ending up being lost in the street and being blamed for it. You know,
you said you have to do something.
Exactly. You know, we got to save our children. And, you know, having all the adults that I work with, being the teachers, their parents, in my private practice, I don't know what's wrong with him. Or I don't know what's wrong with me. I can't keep a man, or I can't keep a job.
Right.
And feeling more empowered as I learned this process. And then also seeing the results with these people. To see people beginning to feel hopeful over time. Instead of like having, you know, like just being a consistent victim. And that made me feel good, like I was being able to contribute and give something back to the community. That to transform people who felt hopeless and broken, to be able to help give them a sense of power, a sense of being able to flourish and to be part of that process, always helped me also in feeling more like a worthwhile person in my society.
Now, you said you have a private practice. Are there other services or services that maybe we'd want to know about, maybe want to get a little bit of your time?
Oh, absolutely. If you go to my website, creatingyourhealthylegacy.com, on there's a blog that gives a lot of the exercises that I use with clients on how to begin to trace back patterns. I'm also available to doing lectures and workshops with all types of organizations. I've done consulting with various businesses. I also do support groups as well as individual consultations. And through that website, people can contact me, you know, for whatever type of services would be helpful for them.
So what would be a good first step? People hear what you're saying and they're saying, it'd be good for me, it'd be good for somebody I know. What's a good first step?
A good first step is when you go to the website, if you click on the blog, it has some exercises that can help guide you through the original patterns of. Or if you need a more hands-on approach, to contact me through the website, and we can set up either an individual consultation or a group, you know, whatever works best for the person, to help them begin to start on this journey of exploring their past and how it's beginning to shift so that they can move forward in a more positive way.
Have you heard back from anybody who has taken your advice or read the book or used any of these techniques? Have you heard back and found out about any of the results?
Actually, a lot of times I've had immediate results. There was one woman I was working with, and during the interview, because when I interview a person, I start them on that pattern.
Yeah.
And she was like, you know, here I'm in my late 40s, and I keep meeting the same type of man, and something must be wrong. So I started asking her, well, what was your mother's relationship like with your father? And then it turned out, oh, well, you know, and she had others. I said, what happened with your grandmother? What happened with your great-grandmother? And then looking on her father's side. And as she began to see the similar patterns, she had an aha moment like, oh. And then she could begin to see what role she was playing in her family.
Right.
And how, because of that role, it was getting in the way of her having intimacy with, you know, different men, because she had to be in control. So as this began to blossom, you could see her shift within herself of, oh, that's what that was. And she became so excited because now she knew why so-and-so was acting like this and so-and-so, and what she needed to do.
Sometimes we're the common factor.
Exactly.
But there's hope?
There's absolutely hope, because as you begin to stop making everybody else responsible for your fate and beginning not to like blame, but to own what your role is as you understand it better, then you have the power to shift it. And as I tell them, it's like doing a dance. If somebody's doing the tango with you and you start doing a waltz, they can't keep doing the tango because you now have a different rhythm. And as you shift your rhythm, it then shifts everybody else's rhythm with you. And that can then create a much beautiful dance for you and, you know, going forward in your life.
It's about creating a healthy legacy.
Exactly. Exactly.
Good name for the book. Good name for what it is that you do. Karen, wonderful to have you here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me here. It was a real pleasure.